I have my own personal experiences with Boogaloo, and I've been watching them since January, trying to gauge better exactly who they are and what they want. I'll pull up a video. So I've been going to local protests here in Colorado, and it started with one initial person wearing a Hawaiian shirt at one protest. Then a week later there were four, and then a week later there was almost 14. So on Sunday I went to the protest, and I kind of gauged to see exactly the people wearing the Hawaiian shirts, and they were saying that they were hired by AIM, which is their American Indian Movement, for security. Well, Boogaloo in South Carolina said that they were hired for security as well. They lied, and this wouldn't be the last time that they lied, and they'll probably keep doing it. But AIM did not hire them for security for the event. They just took over themselves. But as I walked out to the actual place, more and more people started to follow me around, and they were on their walkie-talkies talking to one another and like, hey, this person, this. And so people started following me around the event, which a couple of them looked like Antifa, and they were putting like their bats and their flags in my face as I was stream recording. Give me just a second. But as I was saying, I'll go ahead and play the first clip. This is whenever I actually decided to go up and ask them, what's with the Hawaiian shirts? Are you Boogaloo? Which I know they are. They keep growing, and then the weapons that they're carrying out there, the tactics of what they do is the exact same they use in South Carolina. I just thought I'd ask you, is the Hawaiian shirts Boogaloo?
I just like Hawaiian shirts, man.
Okay. And keep in mind, I try not to show any of their faces because regardless of what movement they're in, I'm not out to out people. I prefer to inform everybody, so if they see them in protest, they know exactly who and what they stand for. But after that, me just asking one question, if they were Boogaloo, they of course walkie-talkied in to other people within the protest. And then more and more started to surround me, get in front of me, try to block me, impede where I was going, what I was doing. You'll see a lady come from the left-hand side here in about 15 seconds. Of course, she has a walkie-talkie on her side so she can hear what they're saying. She's got a earpiece ran to her ear.
Would you like one?
No, thank you. Actually there because I want the statue to come down with Columbus in my area because my ancestors were killed in this area. But there's the lady. She looks like Antifa. Can't really generalize any protester as to what they are, except for Boogaloo because they kind of position themselves that way. But kept taking her bat, putting it over her shoulder and then shoving it in my face. And then you can't see it in the other part of the video because I can't sidestep it, but then I raised it up over top of her. Excuse me, what are you doing? Understand I run a Democratic website and I'm not okay. So for that initial thing, I shut the camera off, and then our continued conversation was me asking why she was doing that, and I told her to leave me alone, and her response was, I don't need another man telling me what to do, which has nothing to do with her getting in my face and shoving her bat in my face over and over. But after that incident, I walked on around to the other side of the native ceremonial chanting, and then two people with flags on poles, which these poles were made to hit people with because they're big metal poles with flags taped to them, and they kept shoving the poles and the flags in my face. So I then decided to leave, to go home, and I was going to actually, because I feared for my own safety at a protest that I was actually there for, not to stir or cause trouble, I was going back to get my gear, what I walk around with, which is, a 12 gauge shotgun and a full tactical vest myself. And that's because of the protesters. It had nothing to do with the counter protesters, which are the main people that I usually tend to focus on. But over the last few months, Boogaloo is trying to integrate themselves into these protests in the name of, Black Lives Matter, but then they do these atrocities or these horrible things to make it look bad for the protesters. But they have one thing in mind, and that's to sow disarray. But then whenever I was going to leave, a group of about 5 gentlemen, 2 with Hawaiian shirts, 3 not, got around me and asking me who I was. I mean, they thoroughly asked me who I was. They wanted to research me. I let them do it. And the thing was, I was recording the whole time. So at the end of the conversation, after they realized I was who I said I was, and I was actually there for the protest and not to start shit like they like to do, I was actually there for the protest. As I got ready to leave, one of the gentlemen, because of the conversation we had, said, well, if you want us to trust you, then I'm going to need you to delete the video that you just recorded of us. It's where they basically, in the background, you can hear them arguing, saying, well, Boogaloo is not white supremacist and all this other stuff. But yeah, they are. They're hidden. And they were saying they weren't Boogaloo, but yet they were arguing for the movement. So they would never admit to it in person. But off to the side, you could hear them talking about it. One of the other gentlemen I'd met with at the previous protest the week before, I told him, what I'd normally do, what I document, how I do research for different things and find all these nefarious connections, and that Boogaloo was one of those things. Well, there was 4 at the time at that protest, and then come to the next Sunday, it almost quadrupled in size, and they all have walkie-talkies, and they were organizing everybody. They were trying to keep people in or out. They were trying to control the protest. And they said that AIM hired them for security, but it's not true. It never happened. So I leave, get my gear, my shotgun, my vest. I come back, and they leave me alone. They leave me alone. They basically left me alone. I actually know the organizer of the protest. I actually know them. I was there for the protest. And these people were lying, saying that that's not what they're there for. They can stay out of all protests. I will always and forever be watching them. They can leave, and they're not trying to help Black Lives Matter. They're not trying to help Native movements of oppression or any of that stuff. They don't care about that. I do. They don't. They just want a way to integrate themselves into situations to sow disarray, to make themselves look like the good guys. And then whenever stuff hits the fan, like anytime there was any kind of outbreak or anything, you'd see all these guys with these vests and stuff run towards that situation because they want that situation. They don't want to stop it. They want to add to it. That's their primary goal, to sow disarray. I was there with my tactical stuff, and I stayed calm. There was police all around watching the situation. And whenever I came back, I went up to the police and I pointed out and said, these are Boogaloo. Each individual, and I explained to the police officers exactly what it was, whether they didn't know or did know. I explained it thoroughly. And as I was coming back around, the guy that you see in this picture right here and another gentleman, they both stepped in front of me and blocked me from going on and said, what did you say to the police? Like, if you're there and you have nothing to worry about, why are you so worried about? And I told him, I said that you are a Boogaloo, and watch out because you are here to start SHIT. That's what you do. I have no love for it. They can hide behind a shell of what they are really trying to do, but them trying to control a situation on native ground, okay, they don't care about that. I actually do. Once again, they just want to start stuff. And AIM did not send them. I actually called AIM today. AIM didn't know anything about it. It's the second time they lied. I'll pull up the video of South Carolina Boogaloo, and you'll see they say the same thing. They said that they were there.
The Aves has more.
They said that they were there for protection and that they were hired to do so and all that. That's not true. Not the least little bit. You'll see here in this video from South Carolina, it was the same operation. They said that they were there. They said that they were there for protection of the protest, and it had nothing to do with
The
that.
Aves has more on the Boogaloo movement.
A radical group suspected to be spotted at protests nationwide within the last week could be in Colombia. That's according to Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott, who named the Boogaloo movement in a press conference Thursday.
Washington Post had a big article yesterday about men in Hawaiian shirts showing up at these protests.
Lott believes 24-year-old Joshua Barnard, the man he says is caught on video stealing a police jacket from a patrol car, could be involved.
There's a lot of information that he's part of the Boogaloo organization. It's a very radical group. Their mission is to create a new civil war.
The loosely organized group claims to be an anti-government movement that advocates for a violent uprising targeting liberal political opponents and law enforcement.
I see similarities between this group and others.
Dr. Catherine Barbieri is an associate professor of political science at USC. She's researched groups similar to the Boogaloo organization.
So what they're really trying to do is attack and destroy the society in which they're operating. It sounds like this group in particular is trying to intervene into the protest movement to create more disruption and perhaps to make it look like it's the Black Lives Matter group that's perpetrating the violence.
We captured Bernard in our footage from Saturday. At one point, he's seen standing with a group of men in Hawaiian shirts. One held a sign that said, Black Lives Matter.
Extremist groups operate in a clandestine way, and so they're able to infiltrate groups themselves, to become members of a particular group or just to blend with the remainder of the group.
Sheriff Lott says he spoke with Bernard at the protest Saturday. He says the group claimed they were asked to provide security for the event. We reached out to the organizer of Saturday's protest directly, and he says this claim is false.
Same thing that happened in
Alicia
Pueblo.
Nieves, News 19, WLTX.
So this is exactly what happened in Pueblo. They said that AIM had them there for security. I called AIM, Colorado. Not true. So why do they keep interjecting themselves in these protests? I have a message and a stern warning for Boogaloo. Most of them don't want to be known. They don't want their identities because they are going to eventually be labeled extremist or domestic terrorist group because of their agenda. They haven't formally organized well enough. But I'm giving them a message. I will be watching. I will be watching. And I'm not a fan of doxing, but if you all become problems at protest, I know at least 90% of who I've seen on video who they are.